Welcome into the 2023 Fantasy Football Bust videos. This is the wide receiver edition. Make sure you go check out those running backs and quarterbacks that we listed in our previous videos. Make sure you go find out them. But before we jump into it here, just gotta give you that little disclaimer. We don't think any of these guys are terrible football players, but the reason we think they're busts, they're just a little too rich in ADP for our value and our opinions here. So, just want to let you know that we don't think any of them are terrible. It's just, they're going a little high for our pricing. But before we jump into those, make sure you click the like and subscribe button down below. We really appreciate it when you can support us here at Fantasy Six Pack, since, we like rolling out this constant content for you. And then, if you guys are really intrigued by us, go make sure you get a membership at our website, fantasy6pack.net/plans. You can use the promo code F6P NFL to get 15% off, and then you get access to, honestly, the most accurate rankings I've been a part of for fantasy football.
The second most, man. Joe finished second.
That I've been a part of. I've been a part of. And then, because here's the thing, most accurate rankings is true, because in baseball, when it comes to it, we did have the number one ranker. So it's not wrong. So we're 1 and 2 in that, but the coolest part is you can get access to our Discord channel, get custom advice, custom questions answered, access to me, Dylan, Dave, Eddie, Jordan, our dynasty guys. I mean, so many different formats of fantasy football. We got you there on our Discord. So, let's just move on here to our fantasy football bust wide receiver edition here and jump into our first wide receiver, Dylan, that quite frankly, I don't agree with, but it's yours to take away with. Go ahead.
Yep, it's your world. It's my world. You're just living in it, man. And it's Davante Adams of the Las Vegas Raiders this year. Very, very, very good player. Like we've seen it last year. He absolute stud. Jimmy Garoppolo is not Derek Carr. Let me just put it as simple as that. And we don't even know if Garoppolo is going to be the starter day one because of his injury that he's dealing with. Like, they could terminate his contract if he doesn't get figured out. But anyways, let's just assume Garoppolo is the guy. Davante Adams saw the most air yards in the NFL last year, and he was second in deep targets as well. Well, let me put it this way, Mike. Garoppolo is not going to do that. Last year in his games, he was 30th in air yards per attempt because it wouldn't be right to do air yards. So with him only playing 11 games, so he did air yards per attempt, he was 30th. 24th the prior season with the 49ers as well. And then last year, even his accuracy took a hit, as he's the 31st in accuracy rating according to Player Profiler. Garoppolo, it's almost like he fell off a cliff, man. And I think it's really going to hurt Davante Adams with the way he's just not going to be able to get the ball down the field to him like Derek Carr did last year. We got Jacoby Myers coming over from the New England Patriots, who's going to take a little bit from him. I know you don't like to hear that, but he's going to take a little bit. You got Hunter Renfrow as well, who I think actually lines up the best with Jimmy Garoppolo, as he's going to play mostly in the slot, and then this is a team that we'd like to think is going to want to run the ball with Josh Jacobs like they did similar to last year. Even though Derek Carr was up there at pass attempts, they wanted to rely on Josh Jacobs on the ground as well. I don't know, man. He's going as wide receiver 10 in underdog ADP, which isn't atrocious, but like he's going ahead of guys like Jalen Waddle. He's going ahead of guys like Chris Olave, and I think
flashier names.
Yeah, I think I would rather have them because of the quarterback play. I really think Garoppolo is going to hurt Davante Adams, Mike, and I think this is going to be the first time he finishes outside the top 10 wide receivers in PPR formats in quite some time. And that's probably very hot takey, but I don't mean it to be. I really believe that's true because I don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo.
I get that. And, you're entitled to your opinion. Everybody is. I just, the one thing, and why I just disagree for me personally is because we're looking at the last 2 years for Davante Adams, one with the Raiders, one with the Packers. Everybody said, he's going from a Hall of Fame quarterback to not a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's going to decline. Yeah, sure. His efficiency declined, but he was still number 2 in targets both years. For the Packers for the last year, he was tied with Deontay Johnson at 169 targets for number 2, only behind Cooper Kupp, and he missed a game that year. So most likely would have probably finished just clear number 2. And then we get last year, he's number 2 behind only Justin Jefferson with 180 targets. So it's just that mass quantity of volume that is just like it's hard to find a guy at that position right there who's going to see 150 plus targets. Is all I kind of say.
I hear you.
But, let's move on to a guy who's really not much about the targets and really more about running the ball, but I didn't want to give it away. Go ahead, Dylan.
Deebo Samuel, man. I want no part of Deebo Samuel, especially where he's going as wide receiver 18. Why, Mike? Why is this going on? Is this like the Deebo Samuel that we saw 2 seasons ago when he was carrying the ball as the running back? No, it's not. Not since they got Christian McCaffrey. Not with a healthy Elijah Mitchell coming into the season. In his last 6 games last year, Mike, he finished outside of the top 30 wide receivers 4 times, including games of weeks of wide receiver 59, wide receiver 66, and wide receiver 72, and never saw more than 4 carries in any game. Those weeks will absolutely kill you. He's not. I don't want to say he's not. He might not lead this team in targets. I think Brandon Ayuk is the better all-around wide receiver. You got George Kittle there as well. And like you said, we got Christian McCaffrey, or like I said, we got Christian McCaffrey. We got Elijah Mitchell back there carrying the ball. There's just not enough room for Deebo to produce as a wide receiver, 18 off the board. I just think that's blasphemy, and I want nothing to do with him there.
I get that. The one thing I will just say, just as a devil's advocate, is, yeah, you don't think they ran the ball with Deebo Samuel as much last year, but really that's not entirely true. The year where he went off and he finished as wide receiver 3 in PPR, he had 59 rush attempts for 365 yards, 8 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. He actually had more rushing touchdowns than receiving touchdowns that year. Now let's backtrack to last year. 42 attempts. Mm-hmm. On the ground, only 17 less, although 130 less on the ground, 232 yards, and 5 less touchdowns.
Right,
so
right. And
it was a spike here.
Yeah, that's kind of why I brought up once they got Christian McCaffrey, the rushes really went down. The rush attempts really went down too. Like I said, he never had more than 4 carries in his last.
But I just say that he's still going to be involved on the ground here, especially if you have somebody like Sam Darnold possibly going to be starting out week 1. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying here. Granted, now here's the thing that most people don't realize about that year that Deebo Samuel went off. He had 1,400 receiving yards.
I know.
Last year he had 632. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about on the year he had 1,400 receiving yards, he had 77 receptions. Last year he had 56, and we're talking more than a half off of only 20 receptions. That's a clear efficiency aspect of it, is Deebo just did not have a good enough year.
And you remember what the deal was, why Deebo was being so heavily targeted and used in the passing game that year was because Kyle Shanahan hated Brandon Ayuk that year. That was the year Ayuk was in the doghouse, so it's like they had to use Deebo. And after he held out, he said he didn't want to be a running back, and that's why they threw some incentives in case they use him as a running back in his contract. His
biggest thing for me is health, just because, like last year, even he played 13 games, he still had 94 targets. Like they are going to pass him the ball. It's not deep targets like other offenses. He's getting the short underneath stuff because he's a yak monster. But at the same time, it's like that's what he is if he's not getting yak, he's not going to be scoring you those big, top 15 weeks like he did that one year.
Yeah. There's zero chance that I am drafting him as my wide receiver 2 on any of my fantasy teams, and that's where he's going as a mid-tier wide receiver 2.
I like him more in best ball, but
if he falls in the wide receiver 3 range, okay, talk to me then. But until then, I'm good.
All right, well, we can talk about another wide receiver 3 that finished last year. We got this one hurts, man. Green Bay Packers. Go ahead.
Christian Watson, Mike. Oh, he's just carried by his touchdown rate last year. And let me tell you, Jordan Love is not Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is one of the most efficient touchdown throwers in NFL history. Watson saw an 18.8% touchdown rate last year. Just absurd. Davante Adams led the league in touchdowns, Mike, as the wide receiver position. His touchdown rate was 13.6.
Over 5%.
That's insane. This offense, I think, is going to be a run-first offense with Jordan Love. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you know how much targets Christian Watson got last year?
I don't off the top of my head, no.
66 compared to 180 for Davante Adams.
And he's going as wide receiver 21, Mike. That's ahead of guys like DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin. We got other guys in there too. It's like I get the idea of it, but it's almost like everyone's forgetting that it's not Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football anymore. We don't know anything about Jordan Love.
I wouldn't say anything, but it is pretty much nothing.
There was a Hall of Fame quarterback.
We know he's a former first-round pick. I know that.
Right. It's just I can't deal with it, and it's not just my Bears bias towards him. You know, I love Aaron Jones. He's one of my
just too much love for DJ Moore to be sharing it with Watson.
No, I can't deal with Watson, man. The efficiency is going to go down, and yeah, I'm not about it.
That's fair. Well, let's just move on to a guy that I personally know you have never loved ever in your entire life. That's right. And I'll just introduce him for you. It's Mike Evans, guys. Go ahead.
It is Mike Evans, and you can ask anybody last season who drafted Mike Evans if they enjoyed having him on their roster, because you know the answer is going to be no. I know he got to his 1,000 yards last year, Mike, but that was because he had like 250 receiving yards or whatever stupid game that was at the end of the year that carried him over it. Mike, he finished outside the top 36 wide receivers in 7 of his 15 games played and only had 5 games over 15 fantasy points. It's a downgrade in quarterback with either Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. We've seen Baker be able to support one wide receiver-ish, and that was Jarvis Landry, who played his majority of his snaps in the slot. I'm taking Chris Godwin over Mike Evans, bar none, every day of the week this season. And Evans isn't going terrible. He's ADP's wide receiver 36, but I don't even want him as a wide receiver 3, if I'm being honest with you.
I think that's honestly fair.
It's fair value, but I still don't want him.
Literally the last wide receiver 3 taken off of the board for wide receiver 3 position. So I think it's fair because, like you said, I mean, how many times did he finish inside the top 36? What was it, like 5 times maybe?
He finished outside the top 36 in 7 of his games, so 8 of his. So I mean, 8 of his 15 games. Just
you're getting a receiver. I mean, now granted, this was last year, different quarterback. You're getting a receiver that finished half of his games inside the top 36, and you're getting him right at 36. So it's not like a terrible price, but I also understand because there may not be enough ADP risk baked into it because you got Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
Baker Mayfield. That's an inside joke.
Let me put it this way. Who would you rather have? Because I know he's going around him. Mike Evans or Gabe Davis? Like the upside is much more appealing with Gabe Davis. Am I right?
Can I pick a running back instead?
No.
I'm with you on this one where I'm heavily on Chris Godwin this year because I do think that Baker's going to be able to support one receiving threat, maybe be able to support Rachaad White in that offense. But I think Mike Evans, this will probably be the first year he doesn't get 1,000 receiving yards, which is not fun. But I mean, when you got Baker Mayfield throwing you the ball, it's not great targets.
Like Mike Evans or George Pickens, Mike Evans or Jahan Dotson. I'm probably taking the younger guys over him.
I mean, some of those younger guys, I will probably take Mike Evans over. Like, I'm not 100% on George Pickens yet, just because you still do have Kenny Pickett throwing him the ball. He's not proven that he could support more than 2 guys maybe in that offense, maybe not even 1. So, like, at least we know Mike Evans can do it if he gets the opportunity. But I understand the fear. You know, that's why I'm 100% with you. I'm on Chris Godwin all day. But if you don't have anybody else, that pretty much wraps up our wide receiver bust video. Make sure you go check out our running backs and quarterbacks ones that came out before this one. And make sure you go check out that tight end one that's going to be coming out after this one. But please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We really appreciate that. Really feel grateful for that. And then, just make sure you stay tuned for all our content rolling out here. But for Dylan, I'm Mike. Everybody have a good one.